A very good morning to everyone. Thank you so much. Good morning, good afternoon to everyone for joining us today. As usual, I am Disha Lakanpal, the Marketing Manager for Emerald Publishing. I begin with a few housekeeping tips, and then we are going to invite our speaker for today, Dr. Kashif Saeed. Just one second. Right. Now, the orange arrow on your panel just opens and closes the control panel. You can change your audio to any time within your computer to your phone. All attendees' microphones will be muted. If you have any questions, we request you to please post them in the questions tab. At the end of the session, we will have time and we will take all those questions. This session is being recorded and you will receive an attendance certificate for this webinar. I hope you enjoyed today's session. The speaker is wonderful and he's been associated with us for a number of years now. Yes, Mrs. Ratnasri, if you can please introduce today's speaker.
Thank you very much, Disha. So good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome you all to the 6th session of the Research Mentoring Workshop as an extension of the Writing Impactful Research Program and a post-conference engagement of ICMR 2021 conducted by the Faculty of Management Studies, Sabaragamuwa University of Sri Lanka in collaboration with Emerald Publishing and the Gulf Medical University, Ajman, UAE. With great respect, let me first welcome the main speaker of today's session, Professor Kashif Saeed, Assistant Professor, Business School at Gift University, Pakistan. Today, he is discussing the topic, the issue of originality in social science research. With gratitude, let me also welcome Professor Atula Nyanapala, Dean, Faculty of Management Studies, Sabaragamuwa University of Sri Lanka. Then, with gratitude, let me also welcome Ms. Disha Lakanpal, Regional Marketing Manager, Emerald Publishing Group. Then, with great respect, I would like to welcome all the distinguished participants from Emerald Publishing, Gulf Medical University, and Sabaragamuwa University of Sri Lanka. But last, not least, the respected audience, mainly our academics from all the universities worldwide, senior professors, senior lecturers, students, and researchers are welcome to the program for making this session very lively. So, I would like to introduce the main speaker of today's session, and it's a great privilege for me to announce him. Kashif Saeed works at Assistant Professor, Business School at Gift University, Pakistan. With 17 years of full-time teaching and research experience, he has published 60 articles in internationally acclaimed journals. These journals include Personal Review, Marketing Intelligence and Planning, International Journal of Bank Marketing, Total Quality Management Journal, the Journal of Management Development, British Food Journal, then Business Excellence Journal, and the International Journal of Consumer Marketing, and the Asia Pacific Journal of Marketing and Logistics, as few to name. He worked with the British Food Journal as guest editor to successfully launch a call for papers on food anti-consumption. For Emerald Publishing, he works as a brand ambassador for Pakistan, where the core role is to increase awareness among Pakistani academics concerning research methods and publications in international journals. As a trainer, he delivered various seminars and workshops across Pakistan and in Indonesia, Morocco, and Sri Lankan universities. So, Professor, it's over to you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Shanika. Thank you, Ms. Disha, and thank you, Professor Atula. Please let me know, Ms. Disha, once you will be able to see my screen.
I can see your screen.
Okay, so you can see my screen, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So good afternoon, good morning, and good evening to all of you, those who are attending this webinar for today. I'll be taking around 30 odd minutes to present the issue of originality in research, and then definitely I will be inviting questions from the audience. So yeah, this issue of originality in research has its importance. We go to a lot of PhD proposal defense programs and a lot of PhD defense programs, a lot of MPhil research defense programs. And the issue which strikes our mind as examiner and as students also, the issue is of originality. People usually ask that how original is your research and how come your research is original? On the contrary, if I'm an academic and I have to present my research to a wider audience, let's say to the society and to the industry, they people are also posing this question to us. And another sphere is the public policy making, that the governments, they are now so much interested that how original the research project is, because they wanted to see its impact. So keeping these lines intact, today I'll be talking about the originality in research, why it is important, how do we define it, and what are the various metaphors in originality. So I'll be going through this presentation with the help of some practical examples, maybe from my own projects of publications, as well as from some other notable publications in the field. So research, I think, is an identity crisis. Why? Because we see a lot of research is conducted, which means a lot of publications are done. However, the word and its problems, they still exist. So people, the stakeholders, they are asking about the impact of research on business and society. When I say business, they are very much interested to see that how the managerial implications are resulting out of research, how practical implications are coming out of a research, and is the research improving the way business and society is behaving. For example, the garbage dumping procedures in among people living in a society. Is there an improvement going on? For example, trafficking. Is there an improvement going on? For example, the birth rates. For example, the education literacy rates. For example, the consumption of hedonic goods. So do you see there are some positive changes going on, or there are some dangerous and negative changes going on? By large, if you see, despite there is a large variety of research and a large number of publications, the world still exists with its own problems. And let me remind all of us, I'm sure that the audience is much familiar with those now, the Sustainable Development Goals. When we say a lot of research is conducted and it has minimal impact, I refer to the Sustainable Development Goals, which are very, very important for us to consider in terms of creating an impact of the research. Another side of the picture is a lot of publications are done, a lot of citations are received, a lot of festivity going on social media. We as academics, we tend to share a lot of research which has already been published, a lot of citations are done, people are celebrating, they have, let's say, 3,000 citations on Google Scholar, they have 5,000 citations. A lot of people, they explain and they share that ResearchGate number of readings are increasing, but does that really indicate that the people, individuals, academics, their intellect is also increasing? They are becoming more wisdom oriented. They are advising people in the society and business that how to advance the decision making. Who reads? That is a great question that we need to pose. So despite a lot of publications and a lot of citations, these questions still remain intact. Another side is that funded research projects. Now, this is something new which entered into academia just a decade ago, if I'm not mistaken. It is just a decade ago that in our part of the world, people are talking about the funded research projects. The academia, they are involved into some funded research projects. And because I belong to a business school, so I related it to the teaching in the business schools. That if I'm conducting a funded research project, what impact it is having on the teaching I do in the business school. And also this concept of human agency, the free will. As an academic, how free I am to propose research ideas and to question the funded research questions, and how ethical and morally correct the funded research projects are. I'm not questioning on the authenticity of those research projects, but Do I have a say as an academic in those funded research projects? Number one. Number two, those funded research projects, are they really changing the way teaching is done in the business school or by large in universities? And finally, publications getting cited, but still originality remains a question. So keeping all these things intact and keeping abreast with these challenges, I personally believe that the business of research has become actually a real business in research. Why? Because a lot of pseudo things going on, and we need to keep a critical eye on it as what is happening around. Lot of publication, lot of research, but why the problems still exist? What is the solution to those problems? So today we'll be talking about all these issues in this presentation. The first question, as I said, that we will try to define what is originality. By definition, originality can be defined as the production of new findings. So it means that originality can be assured if I have produced something which does not exist before. For example, the new findings. And it could be the new theories. By virtue of my study, if I was able to produce a new theory, that is also an original contribution to the body of knowledge, or more broadly, using a new approach sometimes is originality. For example, we are familiar as academics that there are inductive, deductive, and abductive approaches. So let's say to study a phenomena, let's say people are using inductive approach. And if I started using a deductive approach, this could be an original contribution to the body of knowledge, because this way I will be using a new approach, maybe to study the similar problems. Then the theory. If I'm using a new theory to study existing phenomena, that is also an original contribution. Likewise, a new method to study existing problems, or inventing a new method to study some problems, or data studying a new topic and doing research in an understudied area. All these can be the various spheres of originality. So by definition, if I would conclude, originality is something where we say that it's a production of new findings, production of new theories, using new approaches, using new theories, using new methods, coming up with new topics, and also doing research in an area which is understudied. For example, if I am studying a context which is very important and has not been conceptualized earlier, I am trying to bring this understudied area perspective into life. So this is how originality is defined. Now, what could be the potential areas of originality, which are very important and heart and soul of today's presentation? One area is theoretical, another area is methodological, while another area, another sphere is contextual. So if you ask me that how we can be original in our research, it can be from a theoretical lens as well as from a methodological lens, probably from a contextual lens as well. Theoretically, when I talk about theoretical area of originality, what do I mean? One form is testing or explaining via a theory. It is very common among us. What we do, we establish some frameworks, and based on those frameworks, we put on a theory from a theoretical angle. We explain those frameworks. So let's say if there is a relationship between A and B, and I say that okay, this relationship is explained by affective events theory. This is testing via a theory. So this is one form of originality under theoretical sphere. Another is to falsify a theory. If you recall, previously there was a theory presented as theory X, which says that people are idle, they do not work, because they took a sample of those people who are idle and who are not performing their jobs in the best of the manners. But with the passage of time, this theory was falsified, and the people who were proposing another theory, they brought another perspective to life, and they found another sample of those people, those who are very good at work, those who run after work, those who are workaholic, those who are honest. So to falsify a theory, you need a contradictory evidence. That's a basic tenet and a formula. To falsify a theory, we need another contradictory evidence. So if I have the contradictory evidence, I can say I have falsified a theory. So I will give further examples of it. First, let me go through this one by one from the perspective of a theory of it. So falsify a theory is yet another theoretical contribution. Then extending on a theory, maybe adding up new variables. If you have a framework, let's say comprising of 4 variables, and you are bringing in a new variable which is from the same product group, which is from the same clan, which is from the same category of variables. So this way, extending a theory is also a form of theoretical contribution. And usually how researchers do, either they bring in some, let's say, mediators or moderators, or they introduce a new variable into the family of existing variables. I would like to give example here, like theory of reasoned action. When it was presented by Edson, people thought that attitude is the matter, okay, and then there are norms which lead to a particular type of intentions. But with the passage of time, when the theory of planned behavior was presented, people were of the opinion that it's not only attitude or it's not only the norms, but those norms can be bifurcated into subjective norms, let's say into moral norms, into descriptive norms. So this way they were extending the theory of reasoned action, converting into a theory of planned behavior, which was more comprehensive, bringing in more variables into life. And then there was extended theory of planned behavior, and they extended the theory by adding up more variables. So extending a theory is also a form of theoretical contribution. Then integrating theory, that is another matter. For example, to study one framework, can we integrate multiple theories? Can we bring in 2 theories to explain a similar framework or to investigate the same problem? This is what we refer to the integration of theories. Another is to validate a theory. For example, validate could be that maybe the results were produced in a Western setting. And if I replicate this into an Eastern setting, so I could say that this way I validated a theory. Or let's say previously the data was collected from student population, and then I collected another evidence from an audience, those who are working class, not the students but the managers. So this way I validate a theory. Another form of validation could be that I used an instrument in a different setting. This way I can validate. And finally, development of a new theory. If you ask me that how this new theory is developed, one approach is to falsify a theory. Another definite approach is to go for some qualitative research, more interpretive into nature, whereby you bring in a context into life and you say that the existing theories, they are not enough to explain a particular phenomena. So by virtue of my study, I brought up a new theory, and there is a process to theorize, and we will be talking about that process in the later part of this presentation. So from a theoretical lens, testing or explaining why a theory is a theoretical form of contribution. Falsify a theory is also a theoretical form. Extending on a theory, adding up more variables is also a theoretical form of explanation. Then integrating theories, for example, to study similar problem, maybe bringing in a unique theory. Then to validate, it is like contextualizing. And finally, bringing up a new theory. Now, a bit more about bringing in a new theory. Bringing in a new theory is an example of serve cool, service quality. People were thinking that the serve cool developed by Professor Persu Parasuraman is the ultimate theory into service quality. But with the passage of time, people learned that serve cool is one indicator to assess service quality. ParkServe, developed by Dr. Nasir Rajput in 2004, was another very important intervention. And he said that unless until you bring in some new contextualization, some new context into life, you cannot measure service quality correctly. So this is adding up a new theoretical paradigm into the study of service quality. So this is how we tend to extend on the existing theories. From a methodological point of view, when they are using a new method to investigate similar methodological point of view, when proposing similar problems, it could be a qualitative, or if I'm using histogram method, it could be quantitative methods. For example, the organization I am a method to investigate existing problems. Likewise, if I use, let's say, spirituality, and more particularly, if I'm using the spirituality by the saints who were traveling all across Asia and parts of Asia from the Far East. So if I study their life, their autobiographical life, or their, let's say, their life events in order to propose or extend management theory, so I am using a new method to investigate the similar problem because the problem remains as intact, the management theory in life. Then using methods in a different context. As I explained earlier, sometimes bringing in a method which has not been used in a particular context. This can be an example of a methodological contribution. And finally, using a mixed method where you are coming up with a new instrument. Their philosophy should be the pragmatist because you are more interested into the practical problems. Methods and pragmatism, we all know that the mixing of methods is allowed. Now, by mixing of methods, what we can do, we can bring context to life, number one. Number two, we can establish new instruments. Establish in my PhD, I also was studied from same global from a customer's perspective, but I said that it can be studied from a different angle. So I established a new scale for global scale advanced method. You can bring in definitely findings. Contextual perspective, if you are providing solutions to new issues like COVID-19, let's say another example, more specific example could be online teaching, because you see we have noticed that online teaching was quite an issue when we started, and online student motivation is still an issue. There are universities where people are teaching online, and there are universities where students have enrolled online. So can we provide some practical solutions to existing problems? Likewise, health and well-being, likewise environmental pollution, likewise corruption. Can we offer some solutions to existing issues? Online copy pasting, online plagiarism, demotivation among academia. So these are the new issues which emerged after COVID-19. So can we provide some solutions to these issues? If answer is yes, then we are making a contextual contribution. Highlighting a new context. No, this is very important point. Sometimes what we do, we are unable to differentiate between a sample and a context. Sample is, for example, I collected some data from Lahore, so I would say I would call it a sample. The study can still be quantitative in nature. But if I say that the people living in the suburbs of Lahore can enrich existing theory, and I'm going to talk to them by using some interpretive methods, some dialogue-driven approaches. This way, I'm highlighting the context. Now, it is not a sample only then. In the second case, it is not only a sample. Instead, it is more like a context in nature, which I think is important. Now, this is the theory part, that potential areas of originality. Okay, now I will give some examples as how different researchers have actually used these areas of originality into practice. This is one example. One of my papers, which was published in Journal of Marketing for Higher Education, and what we did, we replicated. This Parks framework was already there. We didn't do anything, but what we do, we brought into life two things: high-end business schools and satisfaction of international students. So in this study, if you ask me what was new, so something new was the international students enrolled in Thai business schools, their satisfaction. So one way to extend on theories is replication via pure contextualization. And you should replicate when the context is very important and can produce some contradictory findings compared to the previously held studies. For example, previously if Parcel was applied, let's say into Western setting, or let's say into some other Eastern settings, now I can say that if a study was conducted and the some unique findings were yes, that context is important and can produce findings. Another is that the managers and public policy makers, if they are seeking for answers for a practical problem, like enrollment in the Thai business schools was decreasing with the passage of time. And this is study because it was pre-COVID scenario. I can see that the problem is still there post-COVID. A lot of universities have lost international students because the number is decreasing. Although with the passage of time now it is increasing again, but visa requirements and government policies and availability of scholarships, all these are practical problems among higher education policymakers. So can we provide some practical solutions to these practical problems? If yes, then we should replicate. Another condition to replicate is to stretch on the generalizability of a research finding. Now, the answer, if my question, if I pose that, can I replicate and can I easily stretch the generalizability of a research system like Park Survey as a research system? It was a tool to measure service quality. Now, can I extend it to some context? For example, in our case, it was, as I said earlier, it was international students enrolled in Thai business schools. Had I been saying that it is among students enrolled in Thai universities, the context was not new. But because I am telling in this way that international students enrolled in Thai business schools, now this way it is a newer context, and the generalizability of Park Survey scale can be then stretched easily. Another condition to replicate is that non-significant results and the need further explanation. So somehow you can, what you can say, you can contextualize. You can tell the audience that the results are different due to these contextual reasons. The results are different due to these country-specific phenomena, due to this, let's say, government-specific phenomena. So this way, what we can do, we can further, bring explanations, and we can further bring originality to life. So this is one way or the other. This way we can extend on the originality. This is way there are studies. Another form of contribution what we can do is to bring in a new mediator to explain existing framework. This way, this is yet another example of my existing framework, which was published in a journal around 2019 and 2020, again pre-COVID era. So what you can do, maybe you can bring in a new mediator, but conditions should be met. If you think that the relationship between two variables is gloomy and can be enriched further, then you should bring in a mediator to explain the relationship between the two. And this is what exactly we did. Disquiescent silence or defensive silence. We said that the relationship between abusive supervision and organizational turnover is common sense. Even today, it is common sense that if you abuse someone, of course, people will leave the organizations. If you do not do the justice with people, they will leave the company. If there is an ethical conflict among them, they will leave the company. So this is common sense. But what was new was the intervention of a mediator. Why people leave once they are abused? Why people leave when they feel injustice? Why people leave if they feel like ethically conflicting in environment? So we try to give an answer that why people leave, because they become so silent due to the fear or due to some other element. So bringing in a new mediator can extend a new theory, and by extending a new theory, I mean giving up some more explanations. Now, another form of contribution could be the solution to some practical problems. You see, we all do the charity. This is very common among us as human beings. And in parts of Asia, I don't know for what reasons, I have no research conducted by myself. I don't know why, but in parts of Asia and Africa, people do a lot of charity. And they do charity by their personal means. But organizations on the other side, their sustainability is a big challenge. So this paper was published in Asia Pacific Journal of Marketing and Logistics around 2019, and we were trying to answer that how organizational credibility, or you can say brand credibility, can create a positive impact on donor perceived credibility. No, that brand was very common. Perceived quality is there, brand awareness is to based on brand association, customer based branding and brand loyalty, it will lead to brand equity model. That's very common. What is new was the credibility. Why? Because that was practical doing charity. The credibility, they will have more trust. And instead of merely using the personal means, they will be using
Hello,
some organizations as well. So instead of using the
Dr.
personal
Saeed.
sources of,
Dr. Saeed, can you hear me?
yes, hello,
Sir, could you just
yes,
repeat
yes,
the last few lines, because there
yes,
is a
I can
little
hear
bit of
you.
disturbance in your connection. If you can, yeah, there's a lot of disturbance in your connection, sir. If you could
Okay,
repeat the last few lines,
sure, sure,
I couldn't understand you. Thank you.
sure, sure, sure. Sure, I will try. I will try. So what I was trying to say that we tried to help practically, and the problems faced by charity organizations in countries such as Pakistan and all across Asia, I would say. So we presented this framework and we said that somehow if you establish the credibility of your brand, this way it can strengthen the relationship between the quality, perceived quality, brand awareness and association with the donor perceived brand equity. So one another form of originality is by solving some practical problems. And interestingly, this can be done by proposing some quantitative frameworks. Yet another form of contribution or originality can stem from extending the scope of a theory by repositioning the nature of a variable. And in this diagram, nothing was new. All the variables were there: brand love, brand hate, negative word of mouth, value expressiveness, social self, inner self. Everything was there. Even brand jealousy. But what we did, we like repositioned the positioning of brand jealousy. Previously, it was believed that brand jealousy is a positive phenomena, and when people feel jealous, they pay more. And that was a research conducted by Jane in 2019. When people feel jealous, they pay more. But what we did, we came up with another definition for brand jealousy. We said that no, it's not. It's just one explanation. Another explanation to brand hate, that it can include answering a question, shift of emotion among people. A person really among people, a person loving hate the brand? He said yes. A person loving a brand can, yes. A fashion brand, a fashion luxury brand can actually hate the brand when people feel jealous and jealous from each other. So we give again some another dimension to the study of brand jealousy. Previously, it was considered as a very positive element, and we took it from this positivity element to a negative element, and we said that this jealousy can intervene between brand love as well as brand hate. So this way, you can stretch the scope of an existing variable, its positioning, and also this way we refer it to more original contribution to the existing understanding, because this way it was stretching the understanding of the theorists. Now, another form of contribution and originality can come from quantifying a phenomena. Although it is believed that new frameworks are original frameworks, but I would like to explain how new frameworks are original frameworks sometimes, and how quantification can give more life to the existing theory. What we did, we followed the study conducted by Rebello and Ramaswamy in 2019. The work was published by Journal of Vocational Behavior, and they did a qualitative investigation. They collected evidence from cleaners as how they are experiencing element could be categorized as segregation, some categorized as microaggression, social aggression. What we did was took help from the we presented
Sir,
this
you are
framework and
breaking up.
tested it, and we tested it. So in a way,
Pro Dr. Saeed,
we tested, we
hello.
quantified it. In a way, we
Dr.
presented
Saeed,
the
can you hear me?
antecedent. So this way,
Hello.
yes.
Dr. Saeed, sir, you're breaking up a lot.
Yes, I
Cannot
can hear you.
understand.
Can you hear me? Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, now we can hear you. You're breaking up a lot. I cannot hear you.
I'm sorry, I can't do with internet connection. That's
I know, I know, I know.
yeah,
But
yeah. So
I couldn't hear
sometimes
you
it
for
happens.
about. I know, I know. I
Uh,
couldn't hear you for about a minute.
okay. Okay, I will
Sir,
repeat. No worries, no worries. I will repeat.
can you?
So I was just trying to make a point here that you're welcome. By quantifying a phenomena, what we can do by quantifying a phenomena, we can come up with a different explanation, another form of originality. Previously, the study conducted in 2019, which I mentioned here as an image, they don't want to see us, how cleaners experience invisible dirty work. So what we did to this qualitative study, we actually gave a new angle, a new direction, and we said that this social invisibility can be quantified. And those elements were actually discussed by these researchers in 2019. So in a way, people were trying to find us there some antecedent to social invisibility? So we tried answering those antecedents. We said that yes, there are some antecedents of social invisibility. Those could be occupational segregation, those could be microaggression, those could be social exclusion. So in a way, this work was original because this is the first time that we gave some determinants of social invisibility. So a qualitative phenomena can be quantified, and this way it can add to the originality of a framework. Another form of originality can stem from bringing in a new perspective. Previously, there were studies where much perspective was considered in TV advertising. But in Pakistan and in countries where equality prevails, we see that is very less. We said that father's perspective is very important. Fathers may not be intervening deeply into the grocery setting, but they have a say. Anyhow, they have a say. And it was based on my observation of my family experiences, because they have some, their father dominancy is very common in a joint family system. And also they have some influence on product choice, as well as some influence on what channels to watch and how much TV to watch, and they can advise on various things. So based on my observation, I said if mother's perspective is there, why not to have a father's perspective to advance advertising research? So this study was again published by a very good journal, Asia Pacific Journal of Marketing and Logistics, in 2014 or 2015, and we presented a father's perspective. So this way, when you bring in a new perspective, you can advance in a theory, and this refers to an original contribution to the existing body of knowledge. Now, if you want to stretch the same framework, what you can do, maybe grandparents' perspective on TV food advertising, which is aimed at children. And also you can say, let's say, not only grandparents' perspective, but all those grandparents who are tech savvy, who have this tendency to use smartphones. So how they impact, or they create an impact on their grandchildren's TV watching behavior. So this way you can bring in some perspective, and this way what you can do, maybe somehow you can bring in originality into life. So conceptualizing a new perspective. Another form is that bringing a diverse knowledge, linking two diverse fields, for example, poetry and management science. A friend of mine working in a university in Lahore, Pakistan, what they contextualize the poetry of this very popular Sufi poet in India, Pakistan. And they came up with a critique of the Western capitalism, and they said that this post-colonial imagination is very, very important, opening up our eyes that both fields can be connected. For example, at one side, macroeconomic, another side is the poetry and the poetic expression. So when you connect the two fields, this way you can come up with an original contribution to the body of knowledge. Moving forward, introducing a new construct and presenting a new theory. Again, this is something which is, very, very important in the field of management studies. So somehow, if you can bring in this light to the body of knowledge, somehow if you can bring in a new perspective, just like an example given here, the environment and the presentation of exploitative leadership. Now, this was something which was new when it was presented. Also exploitative leadership, and also servant leadership, the theories in leadership. So once you are presenting a new construct or you are presenting a new theory, this way what we do, we bring in some original contribution to the existing body of knowledge. Now there are some reflections as why it is not happening. Now we spoke about originality and its forms. Why it is not happening? Because generally what we do, we cage ourselves into functions, and sometimes as academics we cage ourselves into disciplines, but somehow it has become a barrier to advancement of science, and science which is useful for business and society by large. So when you conduct research, you are a researcher, not a marketing researcher, not a business researcher, not a history researcher. You are a researcher. If you can nicely integrate with the people who are working in other departments, you can definitely bring in new knowledge to the existing body of knowledge, and knowledge which is useful. I was talking to my colleague, Professor Atula, just minutes ago. So we were talking about the need to bring in indigenous knowledge. And unless until we bring in this indigenous knowledge, we cannot make create a great impact of research which should be there actually. So this narrow-mindedness, caging in functions and caging in discipline somehow is a barrier to the advancement of theories and science. Another is a scarcity of confusion. There is a very nice theory in interdisciplinary research refers to theory of complexity. Can we train our mind into confusion? Can we remain under confusion? Can we make it more complex? Because the problems are so complex. For example, sanitary problems. For example, this breast cancer problem. It's very common in countries such as Pakistan. Every 3 people into 9, 3 women into 9, they are like the potentials for they are the potentials for this breast cancer. Now, if I can provide some practical solution, the problem is not the breast cancer per se. The problem is that 70 to 80% women, they show up to hospitals once they are into stage number 3 and stage number 4, which is not curable. So if I'm conducting a study into sociology, not into medical science, I can find out some reasons that why they show up late. What is the family structure which is becoming a hurdle? What is the husband and wife relationship if they are married? So this way, what is happening? We are bringing this complexity into life, and this way we are coming up with more comprehensive solutions to the practical problems that exist here. Made in effect is very important also. Sometimes what we do, we go after the glamour reading, we go after academy journals, we go after high impact factor journals. Yes, you should read those journals. It is important. You should read, you should follow them, they should inspire you. But a lot of knowledge is wasted actually, because what we do, we attend a lot of weddings, we attend funerals, we dine out with family, we spend time with them, we use social media, we use music, we watch movies. Can we bring this social life to research? This is a question which I am posing in front of my audience here today and to a larger academic audience. This made in effect, which means a glamour reading, which means reading those journals which are highly, highly prestigious, having a very, very high impact factor, but our problems are very local, not very specialized. So can we bring our research much closer to the local problems, much closer to the individuals' lives? This is a question, because now what can be the sources which can get us connected with the social world? These are dining in togetherness, music, teaching in the classrooms, travel and tourism, weddings and funerals, yoga and well-being, dialogues within the family, having pets at home, religion and worships, friendships, super enterprises, COVID-21 as I call it, festivals, and gangs, and personality. Now, these all, including social media, these could be some important connecting points which can connect us with our social world, and in a way, it can help us to address those problems which exist in the outer world. And we keep on ignoring those problems. That's all for the presentation. Now, if you have some questions, I would be happy answering those questions. And sorry for the disturbance which was caused in the connections. Over to you, Disha and the team. If there are questions, I'm happy answering those.
Right. Yes, we do. We do have questions. One second. So, if there are more questions, I would really request the audience to post some, but I will start with the questions that have been posted so far. Now, the first question is, how contribution can be ensured in a doctoral study?
Sir, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me also?
Hello.
Hello.
Yes, yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
You may be are you facing issues switching on your video? No problem.
Hello, can you hear me?
Sir, I can hear you now.
I think, yes, it's better now. Okay, okay. Yes, please. If there are questions, I would be happy answering those.
Right. So the first question is how contribution can be ensured in a doctoral study?
Sorry, can you please repeat so that I can clearly understand what is the
How
question?
how contribution can be ensured in a doctoral study?
Yeah, contribution largely stems from three spheres. One form of contribution is the theoretical contribution, which I gave some examples. Another form of contribution is methodological contribution, which, as I said earlier, theoretical contribution is maybe sometimes adding up new variables or extending on a new theory. Methodological contribution can also stem from maybe using a new instrument or developing a new instrument, and then it can be a contextual contribution, which means that maybe studying an underdeveloped area, an area which has not been studied by people before. So, and also it depends upon your university that what is contribution according to them. If they say that it should only be theoretical contribution, we should not talk about, let's say, methodological or contextual contribution. We should probably talk about more like about theories and more like about as it can be theoretical, methodological, contextual, but if a university demands more theoretical contribution, that you should figure it out as how theoretical it can be. If you ask me personally, beyond theory, it should be indigenous. For example, why not to study the economic conditions in Sri Lanka as a PhD in economics, as how those can be improved? Why not to study the sanitation problems in the suburbs of Bombay if someone is doing a PhD in economics or social sciences in India? Why not to study the floods and water management in Pakistan if someone is doing a PhD from a university here in Pakistan? So by contribution, I mean that it should be more indigenous, more localized, and more closer to reality rather than more something like a star on the sky.
Dr. Saeed, I have made you the organizer. You should be able to see the questions tab. I thought because you were facing issues listening to the question, maybe you can actually look at the questions.
Okay, let me go through these then. The questions.
There is a small on the top right corner. You will see there is a pop out button. You can actually pop out the window and make it bigger. Just on the questions, there is an X, and before that, there is a pop out button. If you just click on that, the
Okay, what you can
questions
do,
tab.
yeah, yeah, maybe you can read questions, and if I will feel problem, I will read from there.
Okay,
If you
okay,
can help
okay.
me this way.
I'll do that. So the next question is, hello professor, by focusing only on contextual originality, can we publish paper in a good journal?
You see, you have to define good journal first. What is a good journal? For some, good journal is high impact factor. For some, good journal is Scopus Index journal. For some, good journal is APC type journals where you pay and publish. And for some, good journal is just a journal. Okay, so we have to define. There are international journals published by Emerald, which where contextual contribution is important. For example, International Journal of Bank Marketing. Now, if you conduct a study into food business and you ask that they will publish your study, I'm sorry, no. Their context is banking. Likewise, there is another journal, British Food Journal. If you study banking and you want to publish in British Food Journal, I'm sorry, it will not happen because their Qibla or their focus is towards more into the food related issues. So yes, good journals, they are context specific because they have a target audience, because they have editorial scope, and yes, they will publish your work if it is nicely delivered contextual work, if it really important in a given context. For example, let me give you an idea. Food research. Now, plate wastage is a very practical issue, plate wastage. And in our Indo-Pak traditions, in Asian traditions, eating too much is a nice thing. In the households, your grandparents, they always eat. No, with that, what is happening to you to eat to cholesterol levels, what is happening to body mass, what is happening to overall general health of the people, and how this overall health is becoming a hurdle or it is becoming a success for managers. These can be some nice practical issues which you can propose to journals such as, let's say, British Food Journal. And also banking. You see, banking is nicely split into Islamic banking, halal banking, traditional banking, global banking, Islamic accounting, welfare accounting. So if you have some practical issues, not the pseudo issues, which are just theoretical in nature and has nothing to do with the practice from where you collected the sample. Let's say I conducted a study on welfare accounting, but in my city, from where I collected the sample, there is no concept of welfare accounting. So what is the point of conducting this type of research? You do the research, you fulfill the requirement posed by the university deans and directors and vice chancellors, but your research might have minimum impact. Contrarily, if you conduct a study which is more closer to the practical in nature, which is more practical, will definitely have an impact. So answering your question no more specifically, by concluding it, if you are really contributing via your context to the body of knowledge and to improve with the practice, yes, contextual thing is very important. But if it is just a sample that a study was conducted is in Netherlands and you collected data from Colombo, I'm sorry, merely collecting data is not a context. It is just a sample and it is just a replication, not an extension via replication.
Thank you so much. The next question is, could we prove originality of the research paper through methodology?
Definitely, as I said, that when we employ some innovative methods, for example, mixing of methods, for example, in a qualitative study, triangulation as a method to bring in innovation, or again in a qualitative study to establish trustworthiness. If you are performing these activities, yes, we can definitely ensure originality of the research. But you see, originality is a holistic perspective. It is not only about writing a paper, it is not only about writing method section, it is not only about data collection and using some glamorous softwares to come up with the analysis. It is a holistic phenomena. As I said, and I gave you people just a thought about it. For example, am I solving a practical problem? Am I bringing some positivity to the life of the people living around me? Is my research really has some localized perspective? If yes, of course, it is original contribution to the body of knowledge. Theories, we keep on advancing theories, and I guess our colleagues in the West, they are doing in a bit better manner than what we do here, based on my perspective. So what we can do, maybe we can bring in this indigenous perspective to life rather than thinking of bringing in new theories. Maybe somehow, if we are lucky and so fortunate, by bringing context, we can advance theory as well. Who knows? But solving a problem, I guess, via research is more important.
Thank you. The next question is, how can we create contribution of new theory when it requires authenticity from existing research?
You are very right, actually. When we are writing a literature review, this is one of the weaknesses of theorizing, that you have to rely on existing literature. Okay, so we can't do anything. This is a spirit of science. This is one thing. Secondly, once we are presenting a new theory, definitely it has a process. We need to follow that process. Either we can falsify, we can add in new mediator moderators, as I explained earlier in my presentation, or we can do it completely qualitative, starting from scratch. I would like to highlight a perspective. For example, this servant leadership. Now, leadership practices were already there: transactional, transformational, and let's say other forms of leadership. Theory was already there, but This new practice was not conceptualized earlier. So what researchers did, they brought in this tacit knowledge and presented it into a more explicit manner as how you can make people more servant-oriented leaders rather than making them merely the leaders. So there is a process to follow, and as I said earlier, there is a weakness, and science, of course, is a man-made intervention into nature. So it's not the nature per se. For example, if I ask someone to, okay, now what you would like to add to the sea, or what you would like to add to the stars, or what you would like to add to a mountain. So I'm sorry, mountain will remain a mountain, sun will remain a sun, moon will remain moon, star will remain stars. You cannot do much intervention into these natural phenomena. Weather will remain a weather. But what you can do, a man-made intervention into nature, given in a given setting, apply it with all the weaknesses as well as the strengths. And we cannot deny the fact that all the man-made interventions, they have their strengths as well as their weaknesses. This is why science advances. If there is no weakness, there is no point of advancing it. So with all its strengths and weaknesses, we have to respect it and try to advance it as much as possible. One more perspective, if you allow me, Disha. Sometimes we
Sure.
advance science just to serve our egos, just to tell the world that we advanced a theory or we presented a theory or we came up with a problem. Over and over again, I have been into this, I have been into academia since around 17 years now, by grace of Allah Almighty. I have been publishing it, let's say, since last 12 or 13 years. No, with the passage of time, slowly and steadily, I am trying to learn this fact that research should be more practical, more closer to your society, more closer to your business. For example, if I'm living, let's say, if I'm living in a town where date farming is very common, date farming, and the farmers are facing some trouble. No, I cannot cage myself that no, I would not do research into date farming and I would not provide some solutions to the farmers because I'm into business and management. This is not an excuse. I can be more interdisciplinary into nature, more open-minded, and I should step forward, giving some solutions to the farmers, improving their farming rather than caging myself. And in terms of ego, maybe one or two papers in a year you can do to serve your ego. You can develop new theories, but also address some practical problems which exist and haunt us on a daily basis. Over to you, Risha.
Very well said, Dr. Saeed. That's what what Emerald has been talking about, real impact. How do you create a real impact in society? What are the kind of research that you can do right now that can actually make an impact in someone's life, in society, for
Absolutely.
policy, for anything
Absolutely.
else as well. So yes, thank you so much. This is the last question that I have received for the day. If anybody has any more questions, please do post them. It says, "Dear sir, if we already designed questionnaire, does that lead to loss of originality?"
If you already designed a questionnaire, it depends
No,
how you
no. If
design the
you
questionnaire.
No, they say that, dear sir, if we used an already designed questionnaire, does that
Uh,
lead to the loss of originality?
you see, there is
They have,
completely original and less original research. Yeah, yeah, please. Please.
yes, so they have just
Yes,
added something
Isha,
else
you
to
have
their
to say
question
something.
also. Yeah, yes. They have added something to their question. It says, if we have taken unit of analysis is one district of a country, it generalizes the
Hmm.
whole country.
If this one district of the country is very important, there is no need to generalize, first of all. Like I would give an example, HIV in parts of Africa and also the southern Africa. So if I say that Zimbabwe is important, Chile is important, Chad is important to study as a context, I don't need it to generalize because this might not be the phenomena in Morocco, might not be the phenomena in Tunisia, and also might not be the phenomena in some other parts of the country. So even if it is one district, please, my suggestion would be not to generalize. Try to address the problem. This is one thing. Secondly, if you used a questionnaire which was developed by some others, at least what you can do, maybe you can do some content validity, maybe you can do some pilot testing. So there are some methods and techniques with which what you can do, you can enhance the validity of your research and its findings. For example, if I say a questionnaire was developed in English, while my sample respondents, let's say they don't understand English, they understand Hindi, Sinhalese, Urdu, or Punjabi. So there is no point of conducting a study in English, please, because you want their opinion. You don't want to get the questionnaire filled only. Instead, you want it filled with an opinion. So I guess if you bring it again, the same thing, if you take it much closer to the local settings, yes, you can do. Then the originality is not compensated anyway. Then it is original contribution because you are taking it much more closer now. If it is in English and your audience doesn't know how to, I mean, they are unable to read it, or the other principles which we use in order to design a questionnaire, those have not been encapsulated, then you are very right, your originality is hurt.
Very different ways of looking at the same problem through a different lens. Thank you so much. I will give it another minute or so if anyone has any questions. Otherwise, we can close the session.
Sure.
I think our attendance today is a bit low. I would definitely like to wish everybody a very, very happy Dussehra. I know it is a national holiday, at least for India, and a lot of us are on leave. So,
Okay.
whoever has joined from India, thank you so much
Okay.
for taking time out on your holiday and joining us. And I think I'll begin the thank you note. I, Disha Lakanpal, on behalf of Emerald Publishing, Gulf Medical University, and Faculty of Management Studies of the Sabaragamuwa University of Sri Lanka, extend a very, very hearty vote of thanks to the main speaker today, Professor Kashif Saeed, Assistant Professor of Gift University, Pakistan. He's also the brand ambassador of UAE. Sir, it was indeed a very, very insightful and informational session that covered the issue of originality in social science research. At the outset, I would like to express my
Thank you.
gratitude to Emerald Publishing, Faculty of Management Studies, Sabaragamuwa University of Sri Lanka, and Gulf Medical University for their unconditional support in conducting this program. In particular, I express my gratitude to Mr. Sundar Radhakrishnan, the Vice President, South Asia Emerald Publishing, Professor Atula Gyanapala, Dean of the Faculty of Management Studies, and Professor M.S.M. Aslam, the Chairman of the Research and Publication Unit of Faculty of Management Studies, Sabaragamuwa University of Sri Lanka. Last but not the least, I would like to extend my sincere thanks to the audience, all the professors, senior academicians, visiting faculty, researchers, industry participants, students, media presenters, including Sunday Observer, for their active participation. Thank you all. Everyone, we will meet again. We have a session tomorrow at 5:30 in the evening. So, and we are going to discuss the writings, how to write an abstract and recording the references of your manuscript. I hope you all have a wonderful day ahead, and I will see you all tomorrow. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so
Thank
much,
you very much.
everyone.
Thank you very much. Have a very good day. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, sir. Bye bye.